What is blockchain? The word blockchain is exactly what it means. It's a chain of blocks. And those blocks, what are they? Are transactions. Approved, let's call them approved transactions. A block of approved transactions that were final, agreed upon everybody, that they ended up, okay, this is the block we're going to produce. This is it, okay? And it comes out. And it goes in a chain that is attached one to the other. And how they're attached is because they use encryption, right? And that's where the word crypto comes. People say, what is crypto? Well, I don't know what crypto is. What money doesn't sound. Crypto is a shortening of encryption. And encryption, no encryption, I'm sorry. Crypto is a shortening of cryptography, okay? That's what it is. And it has been around for thousands of years. Example, in World War II, it was used as a strategic way to send communications to your troops without the enemy finding out about it, right? You know, the big movie Enigma, I think, right? Where the guy broke the machine from the Nazis and discovered what was their code. Because what happens is you put a whole bunch of letters and characters and numbers, right? It looks like all garbled stuff. And then you have like a piece where it shows you what is what. We call it a key. And then if the person sending this to you writes it up, when it goes through space, let's say, to the other end, if somebody intercepts it, it's just like garbled stuff. And at the end, they have a key, they can read the message.
Only the one with the key can read it.
Exactly. And exactly. And there's movies they've done about it. The Egyptians done it. You know, the Babylonians have done it. Everybody's done it. But specifically, it was used incredibly well in World War II, right?
Okay.
Then they created a key that has 256 characters. It's a very, very long, right? And they use it, for example, in Visa, MasterCard transactions, right? They use encryption. So what they do in this block, in order for the block not to be changed, I'm going to explain it simply. I'm not going to explain exactly how it is because it's like a class, but I'll explain it simply. At the end of, so let's say you have a chain coming, and this is the last one. They add at the end here, or at the end of this one, they add the encryption that takes all of this information and creates a key and encrypts this and attaches it to the next block. So if somebody here changes one letter or one number in a transaction, it will show that it doesn't match what's there. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll explain it differently. You have a block here. Let's take it. You have a block here, right? And they put an encryption here, and they put an encryption here, and they add it to another block in a chain. Now, because I put
the block is block of transactions.
Correct.
But between different parties, between two different parties.
No, not between two different parties. That will explain in the next part when I explain what's the network. But it's a block of transactions of the network.
Okay.
Right? That they're final. Because there's processing happening. They're final transactions that everybody agrees this is the final transaction block. Like what Bitcoin did, right? We'll go in a second. And then that's encrypted. And it attaches to another thing that also encrypted. So what happens, these blocks of transactions right now are not changeable.
Right.
Because they're encrypted and they're attached to each other. And so it creates a change of, and that's what blockchain is basically, that's all it is. It's like a ledger. It's a ledger of transactions that have been approved that cannot change. They're immutable because they have encryption on them. And if anybody says, no, that didn't happen because it was like this, anybody can look at the transactions and see, no, this is the truth. They basically create truth.
Right.
That cannot be changed. Okay. Now, what does it mean by decentralized? Because that's another thing that they use a lot. Let's say some cool company, a Harley Davidson. I have a Harley Davidson. Okay, so that's a cool company. So you have they have a server, right? And they have different distributors or dealers, and they send transactions in and out. We did this, we need this stock, in and out, in and out. There is a centralization where the information goes in and out. And that everybody understands. Decentralized blockchain is basically a network that does not have a central server. So what happens is somebody create, I think it was 16 years ago, Satoshi, which they say is not his real name.
Right. Mystery man.
Right. He created basically, let's call it a program where it allows for different computers to connect like a network and use the program between them without one of them controlling the rest.
Okay.
That's basically what it is. And the program is basically a ledger, like a book, but it's not a book, but it's a ledger where it says, Yael owes Noam $100. Noam owes his son $10. So that way, and the reason you have this ledger and create these blocks is so there's no double transactions. Let's say you owe me $100, but you have only $100. That means you have nothing. But what happens if you give me $100 and then you give your friend over there, Michal, I don't know, I'm just making up a name, $100. If you didn't have the blockchain, you wouldn't be able to verify that you already gave away those $100. Does that make any sense? It's basically a verification system that everybody and every computer or every node, we call it node in the network, has the same ledger. So everybody has the same information. So it's decentralized because there's not a single person controlling it. It's operating a program, right? And more important is we call it transparent because anybody can come and look at any transaction. And what happens by doing that network, that type of network, it allowed for people that didn't have trust to build trust because they had a source of information that could not be changed.
Okay.
That's all it is. So what happened is the people that are the manipulators and the people that work on stocks and they okay. And then the next point is that network created a thing called a token. In Bitcoin, it's called a coin.
Yeah.
But it's a token. And it's as simple as it's the same idea of a casino chip. You go outside of the casino chip, you can do nothing. You cannot buy nothing. But you go inside and the casino chip says $10 or $100. $100 is worth. The same thing happens that I live in Florida. I want to send money to my, I don't know, great auntie in Israel, right? It's the war happening. I want to send money. So I have to pay $45 for a wire transfer. They confirm that is my address. Well, now you do it in the computer faster, right? You do it in the computer, but normally you show your ID, you show this, you show the other. Then they take the money. Then they have to process the money. So it happens the next day, because it's after 3 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Then the next day, it happened to be a Saturday. So no, now you have to wait Saturday and Sunday. And Monday, they start a transaction. It goes over there. It takes 3 days, go to a bank in the middle somewhere, where it's a transfer, I think in the United States, and then go international transaction bank, right? And then it goes to the international bank in Israel, and then goes to the right Israeli bank. 3, 4, 5 days happen, maybe depending, right? How fast.
Right.
And then my great auntie has to come over there and show them her ID, although it's her money, right, in her account. She has to show him a tax security number and this and the other. And only then they say, okay, you're the right person. Only then they say, okay, it will show in your account in 2 days. And you will get charged $45. So can you see all the steps that happen? And by the way, there's a change of monetary from American dollars to shekels, right? And so they also make money there. So what Satoshi wanted to do is like, okay, I want to send money to my auntie. Okay, she can get in the computer. She gets a wallet. There's a way to do it. I send her a Bitcoin. Let's say at the time, Bitcoin was not a lot, $100, $1,000, whatever, a piece of Bitcoin. I send it to her wallet. In a couple of minutes, she gets it. She has the money. That's it. Anywhere in the world. So the idea was to transfer value. But what happened is it started going up in price, right? The stock manipulators, right? They up in price. And so people, instead of using it to transact, started keeping it.
Buying it, hoarding it.
Buying it and hoarding it. Exactly. No, I want more. I want all this Bitcoin for me because it's going up in price. They took out all the
fun from it.
Yeah. So it defeated the purpose that it was designed for. And the idea was to circumvent all the financial companies, right? And it was supposed to be decentralized, and now is the most centralized thing because you have to have an exchange in order to buy it. They also requires days, and it's controlled by financial institutions, right? So it got subverted the purpose. But that's what happened. That's what Bitcoin is. And that's why they say it's like gold, because it is truly like that, because now it is not really controlled by a government or anything like that. Everybody should have a little bit of Bitcoin, but the purpose of Bitcoin ceased to be. Okay. So the next network that was created was Ethereum. You heard of Ethereum, right?
Yes.
So Ethereum, the guy was Vitalik, was the founder, and Vitalik he was obsessed with Bitcoin. He was Russian, but he lived in Canada, I think, and I think he was a programmer, or his dad was, one of the two. Don't take me at face value there. And he had a magazine, and he went to conventions, and then he says, why don't we use this network not only to transfer value, but to transfer work done, like if we do something and these conditions happen, then you get paid, and it can be used for verification and stuff like that. And nobody listened to him. So he wrote a white paper, and he got funding. I think it was $15 million, the least amount funding that any blockchain has gotten. And the guys that put the money, believe me, they're billionaires now, because that was pennies on the dollars, and today is like $4,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the point is that he created, the difference with Bitcoin is that it was called a contract, and it was conditional of different things happening, that when that happened, then you get paid or something will happen. And it was a different type of transaction. It wasn't just to transfer value. Okay. And that network grew because it was more useful than just sending money. It grew, right? And it's used for, and then the NFTs came. Anybody heard about NFTs? NFTs are images, which are really numbers that shows an image that can be sold digitally, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into that. It's a whole subject for another podcast. And it's going along. But these two networks have a basic problem. And the basic problem is they only produced at that time one block at the time. The network worked and worked. It's called proof of work. They did all this work, right? And at the end, they generate only one block. Bitcoin right now has about 65,000 nodes competing for the next block. Mm-hmm. So let's say one node wins, the other 64,900 or whatever wasted the energy that they used or whatever, and they go into the next block. That's why they say it consumes so much electricity, because they do that for security, and is really a not very efficient system. Okay. What Ethereum did, because it had this issue, they were proof of work, they went into a second stage, and I'm going to try to simplify it. They basically, 2.0, they created 64 different networks together, so it could do 64 times more.
Okay. Is that a magic number for some reason, or just
no, they just did 64 blocks, right? That can happen, no blocks, but it can happen in each of them, and they're all together. And it changed to a proof of stake, which is different, which means you put the tokens down, right? Not just for processing, but you put a certain amount, and you can have a node, and you make money on transactions, right? Okay. Before, you had to have computer power to do processing. It was called proof of work. That's why you hear proof of work and staking. Staking is basically like a stake. This is mine, right? Okay. You know, stake is like a piece of wood that you put on the ground, and it said, this one from here to here to here to here. Now, this is they used to be in a long time ago. That's how you could claim your land, right? And you do it putting money. But either or, it's an inefficient system, and it doesn't promote productivity. And the problem with the blockchain is that it cannot take the transactions of the world, and really is not very useful to companies to use, because imagine just the transactions of shipping, just confirmation that somebody got the product, right? If you have a big company like FedEx, they have 1 billion packages, right? It's impossible to use. It's too many, because each transaction, when transaction happens, somebody does processing, and whoever wins that in the nodes, they get paid. That's what's called mining, right? In some cases, it's called mining. Yeah, I'm trying to simplify it because there's many aspects, but that's basically it. So Komposite was born because when we created the House of Unimos, we envisioned that many kids will be exchanging like little tokens. So we had these ones that will be little packages where they'll have pins, and then they'll have they'll become members of the House of Unimos. And then when they receive the product and they go click, click, right? They receive the product, and now they received it digitally. They received the ownership. We transfer the ownership on the blockchain from us to the kid. Remember, we're talking that there are transactions on a block?
Right. So these characters are actually digital. They're not.
No, our characters are actually physical.
Okay.
What we did is we married physical object
with the blockchain.
With the blockchain, which is a digital form, a digital ownership, whatever you want to call it, right? Okay. And that's why it's called composite, because it's a composite of two things. Now, when somebody buys that, okay, let's say this is the box. Somebody buys that, they buy it online or whatever, they receive it. It shows, we show it in the blockchain that, we show that it's transferring. When they get it, they say, oh, great. In order to take ownership, they'll go in their app, in the app of Unimos, and they press and they say, click, click, I received it. And at that moment, the transaction passes from our company to the kid. And at that moment, he owns them physically and owns them digitally. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, we envision that if we had 1,000 kids doing this, we will destroy the blockchain. There would be too many transactions to do that. Where kids see each other and say, oh, you have that one, I will have that one. Why don't we switch? I'll give you this one, you'll give me that one, right? Like Pokemon, so like cards.
Yeah,
or
cards, trading cards.
So that's how I said we need to create a blockchain that will sustain that. And we also, I want to create a blockchain so other companies, instead of copying me, can do their own thing. Because I've been copied so many times. So a blockchain is considered a layer one. The interconnectivity is layer one, okay? Like in the internet, when the internet started, it was just computers getting, or networks getting together.
Right.
The military with the educational, with this and the other. They didn't necessarily talk really well with each other. That was called layer one. Somebody came up with a World Wide Web protocol, and that created a connectivity by programming. Email, when you started saying email, was a program that was created in a thing called layer two. It was above layer one, right? And it allowed, it could transmit because we had that layer one, but it was layer two. The same phone calls or VoIP or whatever the case, all the other things were layer two. Now, in blockchain is very similar. You have the block with all the nodes, right? They do transactions, that's all they do. And because it was so difficult, I guess I have to explain. Okay, this is kind of important. This is important. The blockchains that are worth a lot of money, they cannot do, remember I told you they can only create one block at a time?
Right.
Okay. All right. So what happened a few years back when Ethereum came out, there was an NFT. Remember the digital image? It was called CryptoKitties. It was out of Canada, and everybody wanted to buy it, and it created like a stoppage, like clogged on the transactions on Ethereum. So much so that people had to wait 6 minutes, and the transaction could cost a lot of money. I don't know, 600. I'm just paraphrasing here, $600, $400, crazy money, because they couldn't transact. They couldn't make there wasn't enough processing power on the nodes to let all these transactions coming in. It was sort of like a funnel, right? You have all these transactions coming in and very little processing power. So when that happens, that's when the transaction price goes up, right? And it's too much demand. In order to stop the demand, to have less demand, they raise the price so the demand goes down so they can process the transactions, right? And they make a lot of money. But that is like rewarding somebody for doing a bad job, right? You don't have enough, it's like
power
going
to transact.
You don't have an ice cream. Why are you charging me $300 for an ice cream? Because you don't have enough. It's not my problem. So Komposite, our chain that we created, was designed to be able to process many transactions, right? Process many. Instead of having 65,000 nodes, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum has like, I think 6,200, right? We intend to have 3 million nodes. We're going to be the biggest blockchain in the world. We're going to be the most used token in the world, where anybody doesn't have to have a special computer. With any computer could have a node. And what they will do is they're adding processing power to the network. And the idea is that anybody and everybody from anywhere can actually be part of the network. They get paid on the token, which will become a very well-used token that you can use for anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the benefit, so that's for just the nodes, right? For the processing power. So we decided to do this because the other ones, if I'm exchanging a little collectible that costs $30 and the transaction costs me $600, it just doesn't work. So the transactions are going to be, because there's so much availability, they won't be as expensive. That's number one. Number two, there's going to be a node in the network for brands, enterprises, creators, et cetera, that will be able to have a network within this public network, this open network, where they will be able to have objects that they create that have a way of that are connected in the transactions on the blockchain, and they are going to be able to control their products. Does that make any sense? So the counterfeit cannot happen, because we also created a thing called it's a K-link. It's sort of like a label, right?
Uh-huh.
It could be done in many different ways that will have all kinds of security measures, right?
Right.
That will marry the object to the actual item on the blockchain.
Right.
Does that
So
make sense?
it's allowing them to do what you did with your what
Exactly.
what are they
Exactly.
called? House of what's it
A
called?
house of Unimos with 3 O.
Unimo.
So let's say that I have here, it doesn't have that, but let's say I have here a Hermes bag, a
Right.
Hermes, glass bag for glasses, right? And these cost me, okay, let's choose one a little cheaper. Louis Vuitton. We have a Louis Vuitton.
A
Everybody
little
likes a Louis
cheaper.
Vuitton, right? And but the problem that Louis Vuitton has today, again, is counterfeiting, right?
Mhm.
For example, you can go in a hotel in China and there's groups of people that invite their friends and they go inside and it looks exactly like a Louis Vuitton. It smells like a Louis Vuitton. Everything like a Louis Vuitton, right?
Yep.
They
Yep.
have handkerchiefs and everything that they have it there, and they have it a lot less expensive. And the people, because they want Louis Vuitton, they buy that, right? But they buy it. Or let's say somebody that has in eBay wants to buy a second-hand bag and it looks perfect and it is a Louis Vuitton. Okay, I'll buy it, and they buy it cheaper. Goes to fix it Louis Vuitton. They say, "Sorry, this is a counterfeit. What are you doing?" Oh, they look at you, and you feel like a shame, right? So imagine if Louis Vuitton went and inside, they do that already. They put serial numbers, but imagine they put a K-link, which is a security labeling that has all kinds of security aspects of money and things like that, and they marry this and they create a file on the blockchain on their
Right.
node. Right, they buy it, right, and they make it, they create it in their factory, and then it shows that it's owned by them, and they send it to a store in Colorado, like a really fancy, where they do skiing.
Right.
So
And then I buy it.
then
So
you
now
buy it, but you have their app, and
right.
they transfer
The
the
ownership to
ownership
me.
into your app. So
Right.
now it shows on the blockchain that you're the owner, and this object is unique because it has a label with a unique, let's call it, you can call it serial number. I wouldn't call that, but a transaction in the blockchain that everybody can see.
Okay.
Right? So now you own this object physically and digitally. Now,
Right.
you could also have a digital image that you can put on your avatar somewhere else, but that's beside the point. But you have this now. Now, let's say that in 3 years you want to sell it.
Right.
Right? I want to sell this. I know, and now Louis Vuitton is something that they're not exploiting, which is the secondary market, because they want nothing to do with it, and that's where the place that the most counterfeit products are being sold, or at least half of them. They say, okay, we're going to have a node in this network. We already had this. So we are they call the verifying node. So you put it on the second-hand marketplace of Louis Vuitton, and somebody wants to buy a third party over here. You say, okay. So, they do the transaction. You ship this to Louis Vuitton. They verify that it is the item. They can see, they click, they go on the thing.
Do you even need to go through that process? It's already, why do I need to ship it to Louis Vuitton? Why don't I just ship it directly to the
If it's an
buyer?
expensive item, it's better to ship it to, they can do it that way, right? Because you have to understand that the advanced technology of counterfeiting can do anything. And it will happen that maybe your bag will appear in Hong Kong because somebody copied the label. And there will be 3,000 of them available.
Right, but the transactions in the blockchain, there's only one of those transactions. Therefore, it is a legitimate Louis Vuitton that I legitimately bought.
100%. But the idea is that you have the verification node. You have someone that is the authority to verify this. Now, if Louis Vuitton decides to have different centers to do that, or you ship it to them, or however what you want to do it, is fine. But remember, Louis Vuitton is getting a royalty for every item that is resold for the life of that product, and that's built in the blockchain. So they get 20%. So of course they're going to want to do it, right? So they could be.
So I got money and they got money because I wanted to sell it.
And the third person here gets a real product that they know is real. So that cuts down the middle people. Now, let's say you have this and your friends say, oh, you have a Louis Vuitton? Yes. Yeah, let me check. And you don't want them to see the label. Immediately they will know that it's a fake.
Right.
So in luxury, it has to do with what people say, right?
Right.
What people, it's sort of like, it has to do with, there's these words that don't sound so good, but basically what people think, and I want people to be impressed by me, right?
Right.
And it allows the Louis Vuitton companies and the luxury companies to protect their brands and people to only want to buy that. Because also buying a counterfeit sometimes is good. This is the dark side of luxury, okay? I explain.
Yeah.
sometimes people become a Louis Vuitton buyer because they started buying a counterfeit.
Okay.
Because they cannot afford a Louis Vuitton, they like a Louis Vuitton, they buy that, and then from then they decide to buy an original. But that's not always the case. But what's important is that the object itself, this object that is creativity, it has money invested, it has entrepreneurship invested, it has investment, and it has a brand, can be protected, and the customer that buys this is the actual inspector. He's the one that protects the brand because he wants to have an original thing. So we're changing from buyers to confirmers that they're the real thing, and immediately you cut at the head the problem of counterfeiting, which is the people that buy it. So you change their sort of like way of thinking.
Right. So you have the consumer is much more married to your brand because it's almost like we're working for you, and the brand is also benefiting because it's now benefiting from the secondary market.
The secondary market is hundreds of billions of dollars.
Right. So now they have a piece of it, and the consumer is also gaining on. So I'm surprised this hasn't been done before. Why are
they're trying to do it on layer 2? It's just not very smartly. The problem is that legacy companies, and when I mean legacy companies, I mean companies that have been around for decades or for hundreds of years.
Yeah, the Cartiers of the world and the
It's very hard for legacy companies to absorb new technology.
Yeah.
There's so much wealth in, let's say, IT companies and things like that, because nobody that was legacy believed them and they became billionaires, right?
Right.
But the idea of this is it's not only for expensive products. This could be applied to anything. It could actually be applied to anything. And the idea is for authentication and to have a system to get the real thing. Let's say you buy a fish and it was from Alaska, right? But you get fish from, I don't know, from a farm in New Orleans or from Vietnam or something, but they put the logo that it comes from Alaska. So the Alaska company that is selling something to a chef can actually transfer the goods and can transfer the authentication, and they own it. And they know they have it, and they know it's real, and they can confirm it. It can be used for pharmaceuticals. In pharmaceuticals, there's a lot of counterfeiting, right? And let's say you need a special medicine, and you buy it, but you don't know it's different. It looks exactly the same. They've tried all kinds of things for verification, but this will be the perfect form because the person will receive it in the blockchain and receive it as well. Anybody that wants to confirm could check it because it's transparent. So believe it or not, what seemed like a simple thing that is unnecessary, it applies to all transactions in life, including a child being born, believe it or not. It can apply to driver's licenses. It can apply to hair products that you use on your hair, to organ transplants. This technology, anybody could have a node on the blockchain and then be able to manage all of the products or services. And what will happen is all the nodes on the blockchain of people basically will be able to make money by doing the transactions. And what the blockchain will become is something that is useful, not just to have a coin go up in price, which is really useless because it's not utilitarian. And what will happen is it will become sort of like a huge computer that grows, that will be fractional. Like this company will use this amount and this other one will use that amount. And so it will solve a problem decentralized instead of having people controlling all the computing power or be so centralized that people don't trust them. And that's one of the issues happens. The banks don't get trust. People don't trust them because they're so centralized. It opens it up. So how does this apply to someone, Money Matters, Jewish Money Matters?
Even before that, I need to understand, you are trying to do something. I mean, this is the most audacious thing that you've done yet, evidently. I mean, this is huge.
Yes, that's why I'm not doing it myself. The purpose, so we wrote a white paper. I have a brother that is a mathematical genius, academic, right? And I needed the right math. We changed the way the blockchain works, right? Which is not functional. The problem with blockchain has been tried to be solved with, remember we're talking about second layer solutions that are worth billions of dollars now, right? But it's a solution to bad plumbing. It's sort of like putting digital attachments to bad plumbing coming from the street. You're never going to get enough water, right? So we are creating an infrastructure problem at layer 1 where anybody can get involved. I haven't explained how much money people make. Normally in a blockchain, you only make money when you are a miner, when you are processing, right? When you win the block. Remember I told you it's just one block at a time? The way we're going to work is it's going to work different. We won't go into that right now. And so it's such a big project that it has to be done as a foundation because it cannot have a central organization that can be controlled or disturbed. So the idea was to do it. So we wrote a white paper. It was finished about a month and a half ago. It took a while. Took about a year and a half, 2 years to finish. It's understandable. It's a great solution to scalability because the problem with blockchain as it grows, it can become less secure on the transactions. So we solved that issue, right? And we solved the issue of price, how we're gonna grow the network. And also we solved the issue of processing. You're not into blockchain, so those questions don't really matter.
So wait, so it's built?
What do you mean?
Composite, the composite blockchain
No, it's
is
not built. What we wrote is the white paper. What is a white paper? Let me explain. A white paper is a scientific paper that explains what are you intending to do. It shows the whole plan. It shows exactly how we'll done and why it will work. And that's what people take. And then people come and put money for it to be made. All the companies I've owned, I've made my own money. I've made 8 figures, almost 9 figures on companies and sales and stuff like that. But this is the first one that I'm not doing it for me. Right, the House of Anonymous is my company, right? But blockchain, the idea is there will be a foundation. The idea is that we do an ITO, which is different from an IPO. You know, like when you start a company, right? And an ITO is an initial token offering where people can buy a token and they buy it, right? And then they can use it or goes up and all the stuff. And I'm at that stage right now, right?
So you're building 2 companies. You're building the House of Anonymous. It's already trading in the blockchain?
No, that is not trading in the blockchain. We are in development right now. We're in product development on that. That's still on product development, but that will be the first company that will be on the blockchain. Will be company number 1. So that will be we're doing it because the Louis Vuittons don't believe us, right? So
that's going to be your test case for composite blockchain.
For composite blockchain for the luxury market, yes.
Okay. So you're building both that and the composite blockchain, but you're fundraising for the composite blockchain.
Because when you start a blockchain, you are centralized. You have a whole bunch of, dozens or hundreds of developers working on the process until it gets okay. Everybody gets it. It gets deployed. It's called deployed, and then it runs beta test, and then it runs properly, and then they run it. At that point, it no longer is centralized because it's running. Right. So they have a case saying that when you start and you collect money or you sell tokens ahead of time, it could be considered as a security because you are in the process of creating it. So you are in the process of, at that stage, you're centralized. If it's made in the US and it's produced in the US, you pay no capital gain taxes. That means that if the price went from 1 to 100 and you make $99 capital gains and you bought, let's say, 1 million of them, that's $99 million. I'm just giving you exaggeration. All right. You pay no capital gains. So
meaning to say that's an incentive to me to jump into the ITO.
No, that's an incentive to make blockchains to come and do things here. The question that I've been trying to get answered that I haven't gotten yet is, are you going to allow us to do an ITO without the SEC saying that this is a security, right? So that we can start the blockchain foundation. So that's where I will connect the point where we're in. Do we go to Switzerland? I would prefer this blockchain to be American, to be honest, right? It will be the greatest blockchain in the world. It will be in the greatest country in the world. And people from America will be able to have nodes and from all over the world. And it will solve a problem that is a real problem. And everybody wins. So the idea was today, I guess, this podcast is to show you this new thing that's come out, which is composite.
It's really so fascinating, and I get the vision of why this could be so important for already established companies, and how if a company doesn't introduce this somehow into what they're doing, they're going to be obsolete because there's a market here that's going to be happening, and this they're going to avoid counterfeiting and all that. So I get it from the perspective of the brands and the businesses, but from the perspective of the consumer, of me, an individual user, what is it that today I have to really consider about blockchain and where it fits into my, financial strategy or whatever you want to call it?
Look, if you don't have okay, we all have a regular job, except people that do just investments. And we collect money, collect a pot, and we want that pot to grow, right? So we give it to different institutions to do, right? And you invest in different things. If you're not investing at least 10% of what you have in crypto or blockchain, you are not thinking on the future, because it's one of the fastest growing segments in the world at this moment. People are putting practically $500 billion of investment in this, right?
Right. But what does that mean? Coins? What does it mean investing in crypto or blockchain? You're not saying buy crypto.
I'll give you an example. If you didn't buy Bitcoin last year,
I didn't.
You feel pretty silly,
right?
It's 109, right?
But a couple of years ago, I felt pretty smart.
Yes. And it goes in cycles, right? It goes in cycles. But so it means learning a little bit more about what it is. Crypto, you have different, they call them coins or tokens, right? And there's certain ones you can buy. The way to buy them here in the US is through Coinbase, right? Or you can buy it through that app that is on your phone. I forget what it's called. And so you should open an account, right? And to get used to it, buy $1,000 worth of some coins, right?
And I'll tell you where I'm a skeptic. I've had clients who've put a lot of their life savings into buying things in the blockchain, crypto, whatever it was that they bought, investing in it, and poof, it disappeared.
Yes,
it's gone. Somebody went into their wallet, even though they were told nobody could go into their wallet. No more.
Well, okay. So the crypto world and blockchain world is pretty scammy. I agree. Right? Especially the NFT projects, they call them rug pools, where they get money and then they disappear, right? They call it a rug pool. But what's happened was an exchange where you get an account, okay? And you can only buy the coins that are allowed, I guess, in the United States, so the tokens, right? And it works sort of like a money market account where you can buy, different things and different stocks. It works the same way. It is true. There's projects out there. The industry about 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, was like the Wild West, right? That's why people were excited, because it wasn't very regulated, and everything can go. People were making millions of dollars, and they were losing also millions of dollars, right?
Right.
Because let's take it for real. Investing is like gambling, but there are things that build up in value, and if you look at the ones that have built up in value, and they normally go in a cycle, they go in a 4-year cycle, right? They go up, boom, boom, boom. And they go to the maximum it was, and then they come down again, and you feel like you lost everything, right? And then it happens again every 4 years. It's been cyclical for the last three cycles, I think. So what am I saying is, you have 3 options. 1, do nothing. Don't buy anything. Just keep it the way that you know and you're comfortable with. Number 2 is open an account with Coinbase, right? And buy a few coins. Whatever you have to. This is like lending money. This is an excellent example. This is an excellent example my mom used to tell me. If somebody asks you to borrow money, maybe your friend, whoever it is, whatever the money it is, the amount it is, you ask this question. Are you willing to lose that money?
Right.
Are you willing not to have it?
Right. That's why you said 10%. That's why you said 10% of your money.
That's right. You have to have a little bit, and not one, buy a few of them, right? My wife, we have investment on that. Another thing that you have to understand is that the reason we created Komposite is so that, imagine this, you have now 65,000 nodes in Bitcoin. It's a very nerdy crowd, let's call it. Probably a few million people that own a piece of Bitcoin, not even a full Bitcoin. And that's it. And there's 8 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. The idea of this was that it was a means of decentralizing, and if people have the computers, and the idea is that people will have a node while the computer is not operational, because we're using the computer power. That's what we want, right? And they build this account, and the idea is that they go out and they buy milk, or they buy, gas or whatever. The purpose of our network is to become, to be everywhere, right? That's what we want. So if you think about Komposite, ideally, it would be a good idea. It's sort of like buying Coca-Cola. I met once an old guy that had a burger joint. And I said, this is great. You're working here. They gave you a job. How old are you? 7, 8, he said. That's great. No. He says, I'm the owner. My wife let me buy this, but he was a billionaire. He had bought stock of Coca-Cola after he came out of the Second World War. So all I'm saying is I want to bring Composite here to the US. If we can do an ITO here, we'll have big people that will buy the coins and buy a few $1,000s. No, I'm sure. Yes, but we don't have authority to do that. But because whatever, you have to look at companies of how they're built, who is building it, and where it's going, and what is the track record of the person doing it. That's really what you should look at. Because sometimes all the videos and flashy stuff is just flashy stuff. You have to look at who the people are and where they have accomplished before. And if you can, and you invest a little bit on things, you can get a news feed, right? There's different news feeds about blockchain and learn a little bit. I've given you the basic term to be able to feel like you're not
in the dark.
I would say stupid. Some people
in the dark is nicer.
Exactly, it's nice. It's true, and it's important. But I'm telling you, blockchain and robotics are the next thing for this century, right?
Well, it's like financial literacy. Like there's things that are very normal for us to say, stocks and bonds and index funds and EFTs, but for somebody who never learned the language, it like goes over their head. So it's what you're saying is it's time to start learning the language and dipping your toes and getting familiar with how these things work, because this is how the world is going to transact going forward.
It's definitely going to go. I mean, look at the computers. There was a bust on the 2000. Thought that the internet. I'm talking about. Look at the internet, right? There was a bust on the year 2000, and they thought that it was just a fad.
Right.
It's in Amazon or the digital sales or Christmas are more than 50% online or 60%, something crazy, right? You go to some stores and they're empty. Where is everybody? Because people are buying online. And you wouldn't have thought that 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I remember when it started, I used to work in investment banking, and we used to sit in the bank and we used to say, come on, are we ever going to buy clothes online? That's ridiculous. You have to touch it. You have to try it on. No woman is ever going to buy something off this thing called the internet. Well, look at us now.
Well, look at what happened with QVC and HSN, which are huge companies. QVC ended up buying HSN, right? And they just miscalculated. They never expected eBay to grow to what it be, Amazon to be to what it is. TikTok today, you can actually do a sell, be on live, on air, selling something on TikTok, believe it or not. And it's your own, not infomercial, but it's like live TV. And if you have enough followers and the algorithm works, people that are making $30,000 a day.
A day, yeah.
It's not. So the technology is there and everything is there. But what's important, let me ask you a different question. Let me ask you, you've been asking me my questions. Let me ask you a question. Okay. So the people that listen to you in your podcast, right? Because it says, who do you see as the people that follow you or listen to your podcast?
Yes. So I would say you have a mix of people who are steady, they get their paycheck, right? And they just want to have a healthier relationship with money. They want to understand what to do with it, how to grow their wealth. And then you have the people who are more entrepreneurial. Either they're starting off something on their own, they're very creative, or they're already running their businesses. And again, meeting entrepreneurs like yourself opens like the channel of creativity and this is possible and I could keep moving forward. And so you have a mix.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, so for the next things I wanted to say. So I tell you the blockchain is the future. And it's true that people got scammed. I've been scammed, right? It's very easy because the wallets need it has it's called a public key and then a private key, right? And it's word.
Right.
And it's easy to get confused if you're not very clear about it. And everybody in the business expects you to know it already.
It's like financial services.
Yes, like
they talk over your head.
Like, shut up. Explain me the basic terms, okay? And they don't do that because they're just not good people to interact with because they obviously don't understand basic human nature, that you need to understand the basic concepts in order to be able to think and understand what they're talking about, right? Blockchain, what you have to understand is going in that direction because it is decentralizing. The idea is to decentralize the power from centralization and to allow for a more open, transactional environment. Let's put it that way. But the problem also, communism doesn't work, right? I mean, like you can see in Venezuela.
We're both capitalists here.
Yeah. So that's why there's some organizations in blockchains that don't work. But what you have to understand is that it is the future, and the way that we present our blockchain is we want to create the largest decentralized computer in the world. If you think about it that way, which will fractionally allow different enterprises to use it, right? And which will allow the person that have computers to give to the grid their computer power and make them useful and make it work for them. That's basically what we're doing. And at the same time, we're allowing people that are companies that have products to be able to control their products, to build their customer base as a group, right? And be able to not get counterfeited. And I disagree with you saying that it's just companies and brands, because you could have an artist, right, that makes music, break from a label and give songs as a blockchain product.
Right.
You could have an artist.
But we have it already, right? We have that.
We do, but it's not widely used, and it's not that. The problem is, like, look, I'm 52. I'm not the youngest person, not the oldest person, but there used to be a war when I was young between Betamax and VHS. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there were two types of, for those who are too young, they were like a big tape that you put on, not like a DVD, it was a tape, a large tape that you put on this machine and it showed you a movie, right? And there were two different types of formats, Betamax and VHS. Betamax became very good for commercial, all the TV stations started using Betamax, and VHS won. Okay, so the problem is that today there's a lot of things available in many different networks, many different blockchains, but there's too much, right? It's like lost on a sea of things. And what we want to create is, when we create composite, we want to have an infrastructure that is so large that everybody, even other networks will have links to it. We want to be able to have everybody there, because if you have one general one where they can transact and do things, and where it's decentralized, everything is being counterfeited today, and it will benefit everybody. But more important, anybody will end up with his token, and they will be able to use it with other companies. This will become sort of the Google of blockchain. That's how I see it. So
Noam, now you have your grand vision. When do you think that, like, what are you looking at? 3 years, 4 years?
No, much faster than that.
This is a plan. Okay.
Because they have departments, IT departments, and the idea is that the university department, the IT department, I don't know if they have a blockchain department, would be great. Will have a node, and they will be making tokens, and then the idea is to promote with those universities so that they can start doing programming, because the best way to get something to succeed is to get adoption. And in order to get adoption, you have to have people to create apps for it.
Right. That's why I told you, are you looking 3-5 years? But you said, no, much faster. I just can't understand how you get to.
Well, what I meant is the first thing I'm thinking about, once we have funding, we have to do a second thing called the yellow paper, which is the exact plan of the programming. I would say about 18 months to 2 years is the first, when we're ready for beta testing, most probably. So what happens is this: when you have many transactions in a blockchain and the blockchain cannot process them, let's put it here. So you can see they cannot process them because there's not enough processing power. What they do is they raise the prices, so the transactions go lower, right? So the nodes make a lot of money, but many of these people get mad and they leave because they think it's too expensive. It's a bad point, but it happens many times. So our idea is that when we get lots of transactions happening and we cannot do the processing power, what we're going to do is we're going to lower the transaction price. People that have nodes, and we're going to encourage them to put another node, because any computer can be a node. right? So that they do the same amount of money, let's say it goes down to half. I'm just saying an example. So somebody, instead of having 2 nodes, they decide to put 2 more. And what will happen is the nodes will grow because they want to do the same amount of tokens that we're doing on money. And then there will be, the ratio will change where the capacity to take the transactions will be higher than the transactions themselves, right? At that point, the price goes back to what it was, right? So the people that double their nodes, now they're quadrupling their money. And more important, at that point where these transactions are too many, by lowering the price, it will bring even more transactions. They say, oh my God, this network is cheaper. This is great. So those points of conflict is where the network will grow. And we see that this growth will be happening like this within, it's sort of like to the power, right? When you say 2 to the power 2, it's only 4, right?
Exponential,
You take there was a story about a mathematician saying that this guy, okay, it was in Egypt or Babylon or something, and the guy solved a huge problem, and the king said, what do you want? What do you want? I'll give you anything you want. And the guy says, I just want 1 grain of salt for the first. You see your chessboard for the first board piece, and the next one I want double, and successively all the way to 64. And the king started laughing. That's all you want? I'll grant it. This is ridiculous. But if you calculate, if you double the grains as you go, because it's to the power, right? By the time you go to 64, not 100 years of production could have been able to give him the grain of whatever is the grain they use. So the same thing will happen here. Is exponential at the beginning, right? So the idea is that this algorithm, how it's going to be working, will allow for growth. First, the idea is to have it in America, so every American can make money, and then it will probably go to Canada, in South America, people will want to do it. It will go in Asia, will go everywhere, because the idea is that it expands worldwide. Let's talk about entrepreneurial for like 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Right. So why am I an entrepreneur? I was born one.
I noticed.
My dad tried to do business, and my dad passed away poor.
What?
To people. He's a good administrator. He knows how to do administration. He knew how to do consultancy to entrepreneurs to make them successful.
Right.
But there is a basic principle of entrepreneurship that a lot of people don't understand. This is the very basic one, is buy for 1, sell for 5, spend half, right? Spend less money than what you make and save it. And then use the money saved and do something, right? And there's a great book I always recommend to any entrepreneur, whether it's old or new, and there's no age limitation to being an entrepreneur. You could be an 80-year-old man and be an entrepreneur. Or start being an entrepreneur. There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah.
My daughter read it for school. When I read it, it's small stories, an amazing book, incredible book. I would recommend that anytime. Where did I get entrepreneurship? I got entrepreneurship when I was a kid.
So it wasn't from your parents. You were just like that. They didn't model it for you.
No, they didn't. But if they will have contributed to it, it will have helped me. It didn't stop me. It didn't stop me, but it took longer to get to my goals than I wanted to, right? I'm still working at it. I'm not a billionaire. Money it's funny, right? It's like you have
money rhymes with funny.
Right. Money is funny. It's like water. If you have money, then you don't have it. It's better to have things, right? It's better to have real estate, because that goes up in price, or gold or Bitcoin or whatever, but you do need something that produces it all the time. And this idea of that people sell you, what is it called? Residual income. Sorry, that's baloney. Unless you own a whole bunch of real estate, and then it also works. You have to work at it, right? So
the passive income myth. There's nothing passive about passive income. It's quite active.
No. I am glad you agree with me. Totally. And you have to. There's nothing wrong with liking money. You know, they make it like a sin. Some people. Things about America was that Gordon Gekko, I think was his name. Money, greed is good. Well, to a point, right? You have to have some ethicalness in your life. I'm not going to make chemicals and throw stuff that is bad for the river or the people. I mean, that's just not right? There's 1,000 ways of making money, but money is not a bad thing. And the fact that people say money doesn't give you happiness, it helps a lot.
It helped. My mother used to say that it contributes. It definitely contributes. Definitely
Exactly.
helps.
Money helps a lot. And it's better to have more money than less money. Problem is that you get like that because in life, you don't make money or you're doing a job you don't like and you hate. You hate your
It's
job and you
horrible.
hate your life, but you got trapped in this life that you didn't figure out. And now you have 2 or 3 kids and you have a car payment and a house payment and a wife and et cetera. And you're trapped in a trap. And that is difficult. It is difficult, but you cannot, drinking, watching TV like I do, like when I fall down the wagon, like they say, or whatever is your vice, doesn't help you. What helps you is finding something and working on it every day. Every day you work a little bit, 30 minutes, an hour.
Consistency.
Exactly. Consistency, perseverance, right?
Yeah.
And something that you like, right? You have to work on something that you like. Whoops, I got a cramp. I'm stretching.
Stretch. My entrepreneur here is stretching. No, I like what you're saying. And it shows in all of these things that you started, that having that mind of how can I improve something in the world, like create value, like, oh, well, they like these, what were the name of those towels? Okay, let's make more of these towels. Let's make them better. They like there's a problem in the blockchain. Let's solve it.
If you listen to the naysayers, nobody will make anything. Everything is already invented anyway, right?
Nothing new under the sun, King
There's
Solomon
really
said.
nothing really new under the sun. It's just a different version of it or an improved version. Like you see the drills that are electric, that you put a battery.
Yeah.
Before they used to do it like this by hand. It's still a drill. It just took longer, right?
Right.
So you always improve something. You always can make it better. There's always people ask me, like the other day, I still go to trade shows. Like we make these pillows made of bamboo, and I go because I call being in the office being in the cave, and I go out and sell and nobody knows anything, so it's good. Just do it. Do the first thing, do the second thing, do research, do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Just jump on the water. It's like throwing yourself in the water. The water is too cold, it's too warm. Just do it. Just do it. Don't do it.
It's a mindset, and you didn't realize, but you said at the beginning of the conversation, you said, I don't have nothing to lose. Meanwhile, if somebody would have heard you, the first thing that somebody would have thought is, what do you mean you could lose the money? But in your mind, when you started, you were telling me at the beginning of your journey, when you were in college selling the thing for the stains or whatever, I had nothing to lose, you said, because in your mind, you could lose the money and you make the money. That's how the entrepreneur thinks. You just have to risk it and you're going to make more.
The first couple of times is hard, whatever you're doing. But once you get used to the risk factor, it's like a risk factor. I think gamblers have this issue too. They don't worry about the amount. Some people can gamble hundreds of thousands of dollars like nothing. It's just you get used to that level of, okay, we're doing this. Some people they cannot live with the uncertainty. If you cannot live with the uncertainty, don't be an entrepreneur.
You can't be an entrepreneur.
You cannot be an entrepreneur. For me, it's not uncertainty, is expectation, excitement, sometimes a disappointment. But the trick is to have a good meal, go to sleep well.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, I do sleep. I'm a good sleeper. And then get up in the morning and start like it was a new day and find a new way. And another thing I recommend entrepreneurs is to have a bookie like this. This is my diary. I have it for the last, 15 years, where you put the things you're going to do. Here we have Yael up here, right? It's the beginning of the year, but you can see how you write different things. That's for the week. And then I have another bookie that I put all the notes when I talk to someone or where I'm doing something. And I always put the date. I always put the date on the top, because that way I can go back and find things, right? And so here is for the notes. So as you don't have thousands of papers all over your desk, you keep it in a book. And here's for the things that you're going to do. I don't do it in the computer. I'm old fashioned, right? I like this. And that's my one piece of advice that I think is good. And it doesn't have to be a fancy one, a simple one. You don't need one that tells you feel good in the morning or on the next page. Those things are
No, it could be this.
Yes, it could be exactly.
It could be the 35-cent notebook.
Thank you very much. So to finish with entrepreneurship is a way of life. The first set of your entrepreneurship should be about something you like and you investigate and you can start doing and you can copy and you can buy and you can Frankenstein it and put it together and see if you can sell it, and then find someone that can provide it so that you can sell it. The second point of entrepreneurship is to try to sell something more expensive that you can make it for. right? And double is not enough, and triple might not be enough either. Okay. Okay. And I'm stretching here.
So know your costs and know them well.
And then always below your cost. Sometimes costs go down as you sell more. That's when you're doing with a product. But when you have when you have a service, service are good. Anything is good, really. You have to like doing what you're doing, right? And then what happens as life goes by, you see opportunities. Oh, that person needs that, or that's that. Maybe I should do that. Don't just keep that thought. Do it. Just do it for the next 2 months. Just do that, because maybe that is not the thing you end up doing, but you find something else while you're doing that. That is what you end up doing, right?
Right, because it's in the action that things happen. You got to get out of your head. You have to do.
There's a book I read once was called How to Be a Tycoon, right? And it had a picture in it. And there was a skeleton in a desk like this with a pen and some cobwebs. And it said, analysis paralysis. The perfect word. If you analyze too much, do nothing. Just do it. And then when you find something that is working, save your money. Don't go buy a big car. Don't buy a new car. Don't buy a new house. Don't buy nothing. Just be as cheap as you can and save all your money, and then do it again and do it again and do it again and do it and make a big chunk of money. That chunk of money is going to be your seed money for whatever you're going to do next, or you're going to make that grow. Right. And one of the worst fights is about money, as you know. Right, because you're a money expert, and money is just a tool. It's a result of something you do. That whatever you
value that you put out into the world.
Exactly. Wherever you put your attention and you work towards, you will get money. And if it's not working, do something else. It's not the end of the world. There's been entrepreneurs that have tried 3, 4, 5, 6 different things before they struck gold. And there's people that start at their 50s, their last business, and that's what made them a millionaire or billionaire. Yeah. So the most important is perseverance and this inquisitive mind that you are curious about things and you want to find about them.
Yes.
If you lose that sense of curiosity, be worried. Get out of the house. Go somewhere else, because maybe it's the area. If you're doing what you like to do, life should be happy.
Yeah. Life can be pretty fun. It's a matter of perspective.
But the only thing that makes it horrible is the wrong people around you, and sometimes you don't even see them. So if you feel like things are not well, look around, because it's normally a person around.
Noam Krasniansky, where can we connect with you? Where can we follow along Komposite's progress? We want to know everything that's happening with Komposite.
You can go to komposite.org if you want to read about it. If anybody wants to read the white paper, go at Noam at Komposite, or Composite, like you will say, with a K.org. You can go to LinkedIn. I mean, all platforms.
Noam Krasniansky, much success. Keep us posted. Great learning from you. Thank you so much.
It is a pleasure. Thank you so much.